So, remember that feeling when the world it just stopped. And suddenly, schools, work, everything just flipped online practically overnight.
Oh, yeah. Massive upheaval.
It really was. And for so many students and teachers too, motivation often just vanished, especially if you're trying to learn something like English as a foreign language in
Mhm.
this completely new virtual way.
Absolutely. How do you keep students engaged, excited even, when all you've got is a screen? It's a huge question.
Exactly. Well, today we're diving deep into that specific challenge. We've got this really fascinating study. It's a classroom action research project done over in Indonesia.
Right.
And they looked squarely at this problem following motivation in online English classes. And they actually tested a specific solution using Google Meet.
Okay, interesting.
So our mission today is to unpack this research. What did they do? What did they find? And importantly, what does it mean for anyone really who's trying to figure out online learning motivation? Okay, let's get into it.
Let's do it.
So let's set the scene first. COVID hits, right? And the whole education system globally goes through this incredibly rapid shift
Lightning fast.
from face-to-face classrooms to learning purely online, often juggling live sessions and work students do on their own time, synchronous, asynchronous.
All the jargon, yeah.
But here's the thing. Beyond the obvious technical headaches like bad internet, students not having data, not enough devices.
All very real problems.
For sure. But a core issue started popping up everywhere. Just sheer monotony.
Yeah. The boredom factor.
Totally. Teachers, and you can understand why, they were overwhelmed. They often slipped into what this study calls the online tasking trap.
Right. Just assigning work rather than actually teaching.
Exactly. Instead of designing a real learning experience, it was just task after task.
And the result.
Well, predictably, student motivation just took a nosedive. We're talking boredom, students showing up late or not doing assignments at all, just general disengagement.
Sure.
The preliminary observations in this study were pretty telling. Out of 13 students, only like 6 or 7 were even joining the online WhatsApp classes they had initially.
Wow. Barely half.
Barely. It paints a really clear picture of students just checking out, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And, it's particularly tough for language learning. Some researchers, Yabar and Green, pointed this out way back in 2003.
Oh, interesting. What did they say?
They basically said language learning can feel really boring and painful if students don't get enough language support.
Makes sense.
Think about if teachers are just, like, throwing assignments out there without actively guiding, without giving feedback in the moment, students just don't grasp the material.
And then they lose interest.
Exactly. Understanding drops, motivation drops. It's a vicious cycle. And it's not just English, it applies to any subject where that active teacher role is key.
Right.
So this situation really called for some kind of action and intervention. And that's where this research method, classroom action research, or CAR, comes in. Yeah, another researcher, Latif, highlighted it back in 2012 as being super effective because it's so practical. It's designed for teachers in the thick of it, facing real classroom problems.
So it's like, try something, see if it works, adjust.
Precisely. It's hands-on, iterative improvement, trying something, observing, reflecting, then refining. Really powerful for teachers.
Okay, so faced with this, pretty bleak picture of disengagement, the researchers got started.
Right into the Isara process.
They focused this project on 7th graders. There were 13 students total, 5 girls, 8 boys, at a school called SMP Negeri Satu Atap Jerit in East Java, Indonesia.
Okay.
And their goal was super clear. Use Google Meet to improve these kids' motivation for learning English. But their starting point,
Pretty low, based on what you said earlier.
really low. Before they did anything, the average student motivation score was just 43.3%. Yeah, and breaking that down, like barely half showed any willingness to learn. Less than 40% were turning in assignments. Same for speaking up with ideas or even trying to form sentences. Just very little engagement.
A clear need for change then.
Definitely.
And that SIR methodology you mentioned, it's very structured, right? These cycles.
Yeah, they used 2 cycles.
Okay. And each cycle has those 4 stages: planning, acting, observing, and reflecting. It creates this really neat feedback loop.
Plan, do, check, adjust, basically.
Kind of, yeah. You implement something, you watch closely what actually happens, you analyze it, and then you tweak your plan for the next round. It's built for continuous improvement.
Makes sense.
And their initial guess, their hypothesis, based on those low numbers.
They figured it was the teaching method, right? The monotony.
Spot on. They hypothesized that just assigning tasks without real guidance or interaction was the root cause of the low motivation. They suspected a more dynamic, interactive approach using something like Google Meet could really shake things up.
Okay, so cycle I begins. What did they actually do?
All right, so for the first cycle, they had just one meeting. This was September 22nd, 2020. The teacher, who was also the researcher running the study.
Ah, okay. Teacher researcher.
Exactly. They used Google Meet, but just for a short-lived session, maybe 5–10 minutes max.
Pretty brief.
Yeah, brief but focused. In that time, they actively showed and explained the learning materials, which were hosted on Google Sites. Then, after that guided intro, they gave an assignment.
So interaction first, then the task.
Precisely. And the immediate impact.
It was promising, you said.
Very promising. Observations showed a pretty significant jump in motivation. It went from that dismal 43.3% average up to 61.8%.
Wow, that's a big jump from one session.
It really is. And you could see it in the specifics. Willingness to learn shot up, more kids completed assignments, and more students were actually composing sentences properly. Definite improvement.
So Google Meet seemed to be working, at least partially.
Yes, it showed potential. But, and this is the crucial part of CRR, the reflection stage after cycle I was really important.
Okay, what did they find when they reflected?
Well, while the average score went up, it wasn't perfect. They noted only 9 out of the 13 students actually joined that live Google Meet session.
Still missing a few then.
Right, and only 8 completed the assignment that followed. Fewer still, only 6, actually spoke up with ideas during the session, though 7 did compose sentences well.
So progress, but not everyone was fully on board yet.
Exactly. The reflection was, okay, Google Meet is applicable, it can work, but maybe we haven't quite figured out the best way to use it yet. It wasn't fully optimized.
Which leads naturally to the next question.
What happens if we refine it? What could make it even better? That set the stage for cycle 2.
Okay, so cycle 2. They took what they learned and tweaked the approach. What changed?
They did. This meeting was on October 20th, 2020. And the key change was making it much more interactive, kind of a 2-step process within the one meeting, still using Google Meet.
2 steps. How did that work?
So first, they started with an opening Google Meet session. But here, the main instruction was for students to go and spend some time, like 5 or 10 minutes, learning the material asynchronously on Google Sites.
Ah, so a bit of self-study first.
Right. But then, crucially, they immediately followed that with a second live Google Meet session.
Okay, bringing them back together.
Exactly. And in this second session, the teacher really upped the interaction. They asked specific triggered questions about the material the students had just looked at.
Prompting them based on the content.
Yes, actively drawing them out. And they also used PowerPoint within Google Meet to explain concepts visually. Then, like before, an assignment was given at the end.
So it was like quick instructions, self-study, then immediate interactive follow-up and explanation, then the task.
You got it. A much more integrated loop.
And the results this time.
Dramatic. Honestly, quite dramatic. The average student motivation score soared again, this time hitting 79.4%.
Whoa, from 61.8 to nearly 80.
Yep. Huge improvement. And look at the breakdown. Willingness to learn, completing assignments, and even learning discipline like showing up on time, being prepared, all hit 84.6%.
That's impressive consistency across the board.
It really is. And more students were stating ideas that jumped up significantly. Their ability to compose sentences improved again, reaching almost 77%.
So that 2-stage interactive approach really made a difference.
It absolutely did. And this really highlights the main point. It wasn't just about using Google Meet. It was about how they used it.
The strategy.
The strategy. Interweaving it with different activities, different media like Google Sites and PowerPoint. The students got actively pulled in. They were eager to answer those triggered questions, share their thoughts.
And their actual English skills improved too.
Visibly. That targeted language input through Google Meet, combined with the active questioning and explanation, clearly boosted their motivation and their practical skills. It suggests that these kinds of dynamic, interactive online environments can really help students become more engaged, more autonomous learners.
Okay, so pulling this all together, what's the big takeaway here? For educators, students, anyone interested in making online learning work better?
Well, the core finding is pretty straightforward, isn't it?
Yeah, using Google Meet, especially when you mix it up with different activities and resources, significantly boosted student motivation in these online English classes.
Right. But the really interesting part, I think,
Go on.
is that it hammers home the point that technology itself isn't the magic fix.
It's not a silver bullet, no.
No, it's how we use it, how we design the learning experience around it. That blend of live interaction and asynchronous work, done thoughtfully, seems to be key. It's about creating engagement, not just delivering files.
Designing an experience. I like that.
Exactly. And for you, the listener, especially if you're involved in teaching or training online, this study offers a really practical model.
How so?
It suggests varying your approach. Mix synchronous tools like Google Meet for that live interaction with asynchronous platforms like Google Sites, where students can explore material independently.
And don't forget the assignments.
Definitely need those.
Yeah.
But maybe also use other channels, like WhatsApp in their case, for quick communication. And crucially, as another researcher, Nartinigram, pointed out, make sure those materials are easy for students to actually get to and use. Accessibility is huge.
Good point. And the study showed this increased motivation wasn't just a feeling, right? It led to real changes.
Absolutely tangible changes. Better participation, kids were more enthusiastic in responding, more willing to share ideas, and importantly for language learning, they got better at actually using the language, like composing sentences.
So engagement directly led to better skills.
A clear link. Which really makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It poses this ongoing question for all of us involved in education. How can we keep finding creative ways to use the tools we have?
To stop learning becoming just dull routine.
Exactly. How do we use these tools to spark real curiosity, to help learners take ownership, to become more autonomous? That's the challenge and the opportunity.
So this deep dive really shows a clear path then. This research gives us a concrete example of how to boost motivation online, moving beyond just tasks, to create these really dynamic, interactive experiences using tools like Google Meet.
It's about smart design, not just being online.
Well said. It's about the thoughtful integration.
Definitely.
And maybe a final thought for you to consider as you listen to this. How might these ideas apply beyond the English classroom? Think about other subjects, or maybe even professional development or workplace training. Where else could this kind of blended, interactive approach to live online sessions transform passive listening into real, enthusiastic participation?